All right. This presentation is going to be in English. Hope it's fine.
No problem.
So, if not, you can just raise your hand and anyway, generative AI, generative AI, generative AI. Google CEO mentioned it so many times in his first keynote in this year. And by now, I think everyone has heard of the term ChatGPT. I do want to ask you, how often do you use ChatGPT? Is it one times per week or is it one times per day? So if it's one times per day, raise your hands. Gotcha. As you know, AI or generative AI may not be just some buzzwords. People are actually using it. And so for those of you, I actually want to understand a little bit more because it's my first ever time being here and I want to understand where you guys are standing. Please raise your hands if you're a developer. Oh, actually, no one. Okay, raise your hand. If you're not a developer, can you just briefly tell me like what you guys are doing? Scrum Master, Project Manager, and testing, QA. Okay. All right. So for majority of the people, I may have some interesting insights at the end. So stay with me. First, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Terence, and I have a master's degree at the University of St. Gallen. Previously worked in consulting and banking, for instance, PwC, Credit Suisse, HKP, in private equity as well. And I have, meanwhile, 10 years of experience in startups and 4 years full-time. I do go quite frequently to hackathons, for instance, Hackster just recently. I was very successful with some of the hackathons. And I do want to share some of the insights also here. Apart from that, I've given 2 TED Talks and was also mentioned as Fox Twitter. So let's talk about the different stages of acceptance. And also share a little bit of a backstory how I first encountered GPT-3. So in 2019, when I was starting my own marketing agency, for me, it was really relevant to stand out. And I realized most people were not really focusing on copywriting. So I learned how to do copywriting, how to do the written art of sales. And then GPT-3 came out. And I was one of the first to get access. It was in, I would say, September 2020, so 3 years ago. And for me, it was a really shocking moment. You write some text, something spits out. And it's not that bad, depending on the quality of it, right, obviously. And a few months afterwards, bigger tools came out, like Jasper, well, it was called Conversion.ai, now Jasper.ai, and many different tools, including Writesonic and Copy.ai. And I realized, wow, so a lot of things are happening, but not everyone is using it. So I was seeing it as a secret weapon that I only, or a few people have access. It was mostly reserved for the marketing community. And then 2020, October or November came, and ChatGPT took everyone by storm. Everyone knew about it. And I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, what's the value of education? Why do you have to go to college? What's the value of anything that I'm doing? So I was questioning my life. I was even having a small type of existential crisis. And I guess probably some of you may have encountered something similar. And fast forward 9 months after that, or maybe 10 months after that, I think many people are embracing it as a tool. Okay. And I think like in the beginning, it was more like I was more of an alarmist because I've seen how fast things are moving. And at some point, and all my friends are like, no, it's just a tool. It's a gimmick. It's not that good. And I was like, hey, you don't comprehend. The technology is moving really, really fast. Like, if you look at the scientific papers that have been published, it is growing not just exponentially, it's growing almost hyperbolically. So one of the movies or one of the videos I would highly recommend you to watch is the AI Dilemma. So there's something called the Social Dilemma on Netflix, but there's also the AI Dilemma. And it's really cool. For instance, they analyzed the brainwave of a person using MRI scan, and they were able to figure out that the person was watching and looking at a picture of a giraffe. And they were able to reconstruct it. So the future might be here. No more secrets. Okay. Well, I mean, some of the trends might be very futuristic, it's intangible. We cannot really, it's more kind of like a specific use case. And quite often we're wondering, how can we use it in our daily lives? How can I use it as my own advantage? And this is how I'm going to structure the speech. I'm going to quickly touch upon the topic of prompt engineering. Then I'm going to touch base with the topic of the different AI tools. And lastly, how do you build something using AI? Common skepticism that I face when I talk about AI with other people is they think AI is not creative, it's just based on predictions, and it's just a tool, it's not good enough. And there are counter arguments to everything. First of all, I think creativity in a sense is just based on merging two different ideas together, and truly fundamental innovations do not happen so often. For instance, it only happens, for the case of Bitcoin. That was a breakthrough. It was also a breakthrough that LLMs were at some point so powerful that it was by a large margin better than traditional ML models in specific tasks. So for me, it is kind of creative. If you look at every single startup idea, it's just Airbnb for table, Airbnb for chairs, or GPT wrapper for something else. So if we can merge different ideas together, then AI can do it probably better than we can in per second. It's just based on predictions. I would argue. So a lot of people say, hey, I have such a good gut instinct. But if you look at that, our gut instinct is nothing else than an algorithm where the specific details are not exactly highlighted. What I mean by that is we have made these experiences. We have learned what doesn't work. If you touch oven, it's hot. It's not good. It's not good. So we learn it next time, right? And so our gut instinct tells us a lot. It's the same thing for AI as well. It has a lot of data, it makes sense of it, and it's making predictions. We're making predictions based on our gut instinct, which is just called gut instinct. And lastly, it's just a tool, it's not good enough, the output is not good. It is somewhat true, but let's say you are not really interested or you're not aware of a specific topic. The input and the output, depending on what your input is, the output can be really good. So prompt engineering is a huge topic. So what is prompt engineering? It's a fancy word of writing some text and the AI spits out some results. And I would always say garbage in, garbage out. The level of input determines the level of output. What does it mean? If you just say, hey, write me a 300-word essay about how to have a conference here, then it's going to write something about this conference, but it doesn't have the context. It doesn't know who I should write it to. It basically has no any type of reference at all. But if you say, hey, act as a successful writer, having written for Harry Potter and any type of series you can imagine, and please write a 300-word essay about how to give a presentation about AI, and mention the structure, use the structure of IDA in the marketing model, and then it gives you different type of output. So we can use it as a sparring partner. We can use it as an idea generator. We can also use it as a coach for difficult and critical decisions. And mostly use it as a brainstorming assistant. And the second topic is different AI tools. Nowadays, if you just go to future tools or some type of websites, there's an AI.com. There's an AI for that.com. You see like so many AI tools popping out every single day. It's overwhelming. But which are the fundamental tools? Maybe I can just ask you in the audience, which tools are you using on a daily basis?
GPT Pro version.
That's good.
Llama.
Llama? Mm-hmm. Copilot maybe? Copilot. Who's using Copilot? Okay, cool. For those of you, if you're a developer, and I know majority of you are developers, probably it makes sense to quickly take a look at it. It makes your coding a lot more efficient. Personally, I use these few tools, Claude, which has a huge context window, so you can basically just input almost any type of data. I use LangChain, making sure that I can literally process all the company data, because traditional ChatGPT can only process around 16,000 tokens, depending on what license you have. I also use Midjourney, DALL-E, all types of tools. And for video generation, I'm using HeyGen. I'm using other tools that, oh yeah, and for voice generation, I use 11x. And a lot of tools, you can reach out to me at the end of the session. And by using all these tools, you already get a unique advantage because you're doing something more than the rest of the people. And everyone is catching up at some point. Let's talk about building your own tools. Now, yes, you are developers and you want to build your own tools, but maybe you don't actually know what you could build. I mean, there's so many things you can do, right? And then you look at the news and you see, oh wow, Inflection AI raised 1.3 billion. Amazing, right? So let's just give up your job and start building a startup. What should you? And it's not just Inflection AI, it's also a bunch of other startups. Jasper.ai raised 125 million before ChatGPT came out and so on. But hey, what's the bottom line? How do you get started? Maybe you have like some time besides your work. So this is the game plan. This is what I identified. For if you're coder or no coders, you have like almost pretty much the same type of like advantage because you just have like different tools. Let me explain. So if I start with an idea, I usually currently look at this type of criteria. It took me a while to figure them out, but I think they are quite useful. So first of all, it's the speed to market. What can you actually build right now that take like forever to go out of the market? So use whatever exists. GitHub, there's so many frameworks. I recently was just in Hacker. I completed case challenges in 48 hours. All about just using existing frameworks and any type of AI tools that I can find. And also scored well. Then second of all, also basically the metric should be how does it take to get first sale. Second of all, it needs to have some like entry barrier. So B2B tools are so much easier to sell than B2C tools. Third of all, high return on investment, recurring revenue, productized. Now it makes a lot of sense to make custom solutions, but custom solutions take, well, a lot of custom time. And if we basically figure out at some point how we can productize it, it's like a lot of And yes, I think like a lot of people talk about AI, and I would always argue maybe you shouldn't sell the technology, you sell the outcome. So instead of selling the plane ticket, you sell the holiday. So if you go to any type of person, any type of company, you are not selling, hey, we have the best AI tool, you're selling how it impacts the company, sell the transformation. What I also look for is something that big tech doesn't, just fully replace in the next 6 months. It's very incredibly difficult to predict it because Google, Microsoft, Apple, OpenAI, they are tackling everything. It's almost impossible not to do something similar. But then again, there's always riches in natures, and that's always helpful. What does it exactly mean? A friend of mine built a transcription tool for videos. So basically, after every single video, you get some details about what you discussed. It does a summary. Guess what? Microsoft Teams does it. So he had to switch business idea. So figure out, don't do something that Microsoft probably will be doing in the next 6 months. If you do it, then maybe you're setting yourself up for disappointing. And lastly, what helps for me, and I've built like a bunch of different startups over the time span of a decade, and I realized sometimes it is so much easier to sell it to a profitable industry than to sell it to a not so profitable industry. So where's the value? So in a company, Now that I know that most of you are in the tech area, especially coding, share some of the best insights that you have gotten, the best practices. Like, how can you use it? For me, I can tell you, in sales, marketing, and HR, it does replace a lot. For the initial draft, um, it just helps me so much to create that first initial draft. Does it replace everything? No, not yet. Because I do believe that in order to get to the quality standard that I really want to, it takes a lot more time. But maybe for you, how are you currently using it? And how do you generate more value using AI tools?
I have a conversation with it
That's
until I learn more about my subject,
Mhm.
and then I get more curious.
Mhm.
Then I ask it questions that maybe needs more time to process, and then I look for the generic answers to see if that's what I will get. Then I would ask it more questions.
That's good.
Until I get a combination of answers that seem like a good conversation with someone who I like to have a conversation with.
Yeah, it's
Some things that are needed.
It's great. It's a great teacher. It's a great study partner, I guess.
That's right. That's what I use it for.
That's very helpful. I always say, hey, use the Pareto principle, 80-20. Which are the 20% that leads to 80% of the outcome? But how else are you using it?
We used it already for strategy, so kind of marketing strategy. So we used it just for kind of a sparring partner of generating a blueprint, and then used it as a base for discussions. It's a productivity boost.
Yeah.
Incredible productivity boost.
Awesome. Okay. So for how I look at it, now obviously I'm a marketing strategist. I have a lot of experience in sales, and is AI replacing me completely with the AI marketing plan generation, use case? Not really, because quite often I realize it's generating really basic strategies. I mean, they may be useful, but they are not really tailored. And of course, you can do some additional prompt engineering, but still, it is not at the moment in the direction where I'm heading. So I think it's like really, really to get to the first 80%, but in order to get from 80% to 100%, or let's say it's really, really to write an essay and to get a 5 by the Swiss standard, but to go from 5 to 6, I mean, it does take some tweaking. So, yes.
And what you can't do, this is my experience, is to get information about a topic which you are not specialist. Example,
Yeah.
You are not a lawyer,
Yeah.
and you are asking lawyering, and there you can get very, very good
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
And because you are not a specialist, you can't validate. He says at the end, consult a lawyer. But you think, it sounds very logical what he said, and then you start to speaking about things that you have no clue. This is a very...
I agree. It just happened to me that, for instance, AI gave me an output, and me, with my experience in psychology, I would say, hey, this is not the best approach to do it. So I would basically say, hey, please go into this direction and give me other inputs.
But you have to know to
you
have
need to
the
know.
knowledge.
Yes. You need to be the driver in the car.
Yeah.
So that if it for some reason drives into a wall, that you can just steer it away. So that being said, that's how we wrap it up. This is my LinkedIn, scan my QR code if you want to get connected. I'm building 3 different things. On the one hand, I am helping people to be more productive using AI, but on the other hand, I'm using custom solutions like no-code solutions where we can basically quickly build products. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Any really pressing questions which can't wait until the April, then go ahead. Otherwise, I would recommend connect or we continue at the April. I have one question. in the world HR, did you try to analyze CVs with AI, find good candidates?
So you can write job descriptions, and you can also analyze CVs. And so that's definitely one of the use cases. I mean, the traditional system, how it's being used right now, is they use a applicant tracking system. What it means is it looks for keywords. This is mostly the case in the US. For instance, it looks for McKinsey or I don't know, Harvard or whatever. But now with OpenAI integration, it can also understand the nuances, and that's very powerful. I personally have built like multiple different things. So just to give you one example, AI-powered co-pilot for VCs, AI co-pilot for therapists. Turns out it wasn't a good idea. Then also like, so another thing I do is, for instance, to go back to the previous slide, I build like knowledge management systems for companies. What it means is they have so much data. The sales department knows something about sales, but they don't exactly know what's happening in product. And the marketing department doesn't know exactly what's happening in HR, so there's silo. What it means is people are not efficient. But what if you can, as a CEO, craft a holistic strategy based on all the know-how, knowledge that is available on the system? That's like one of the use cases, for instance. But is it the final use case? I think like for the moment, it's still a good one until, I don't know, any type of big guys takes over and replace everything. But for the moment, it's still a good use case. Another use case I use is using different types of automations to categorize emails, to respond them in a according way before, so that basically the executive assistant doesn't have to do so much. Yeah, so these are the use cases. Yes.
But if you do the silo breaking stuff, how you feed the information of the company in an AI. So you take an instance from the cloud, and then you start to put the whole intranet in this.
Yeah. So the more data equals slower. So yes, basically you put it all. Traditionally, with large language models, it's not the way to process more information. It works in three different ways. Number one, you extend the context size, meaning you have like a separate knowledge hub, intranet, or whatever. The other thing is you do some fine tuning, meaning you say, hey, this is input, output, and at some point AI understands it. And third, in order to have the best outcome, you can also do some priming. So you do some prompt engineering, saying, hey, this is the context, this is what I want you to do, this is what the reply should be. So for this question, yes, you just put it into a database, obviously with more, does make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm missing.
Okay, yeah. Specifically, you can use LangChain and Pinecone and all types of different tools to merge to Pinecone for vector databases.
Okay, so I understand it correctly. To wrap it up, I'm not sure. So a client has the data from sales, marketing, HR in the system.
Yeah.
And what you are doing is you go there and you don't use a public AI. You use AI libraries, which you connect with a database, and then they start to learn with all the content of the company. Is this what
Let me reframe it in this way. So we put basically all the information as a context and use OpenAI or Llama, any type of like large language models to integrate. So basically every single time there's research, and by the way, all the data gets chunked into smaller context bits. Every single time you create a request, some type of information will be forwarded so that the response always is catered to what is actually available in the database. So you're basically using the OpenAI API, or using any type of like tools that is available. I mean, you can use Falcon, you can use, I'm sure one person here was using Llama, $70 billion parameter model. So yeah, long story short, I'm happy to explain more in detail how it works and potentially how we could work together. Let me know. This is my fault. Thanks so much for listening again.